Now, bro, it's your turn to edit. Oh, quick, get to it. Starting. Hi, I'm Mark. Once upon a time, I used to be a senior artist at Blizzard Entertainment, and now I teach art for a living. In this bald episode of my YouTube series I call YouTube Art School, we're gonna have to talk about the quality of your drawings. The spies I have hidden in your walls all have reported that you've been struggling to draw clean line art, and that's unacceptable. So let me show you a bunch of professional tips and exercises to help increase the quality of your line art by at least 420%. All right, class is in session. Pay attention and pay the class fee of either 1 like or 1 sub. Do it, bro. To draw clean lines, we need 2 things: the right technical skills and an understanding of line weight. We'll start with the technical stuff first, specifically what you draw with. So, brushes. This class applies to both traditional and digital artists, and in either case, you'll want to find a brush or a pencil that you like and stick to it. Each tool has a learning curve, and the more used to it you get, the more you should be able to do with it. In my case, I almost always use this brush here, and you can use it too with the links that I have in the video description. I have versions for Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint, and it's free. Moving right along, once you find a brush that feels nice to you, the next technical skill to focus on will be your line confidence. You don't actually need to be confident in your lines to have a confident line, so don't panic yet. You just gotta start to use the right technique to draw to avoid drawings that look like this one. There are 2 main ways to draw a brush stroke: using your wrist or using your shoulder. For small details, it works great to use your wrist with the side of your hand firmly rested on the drawing surface. But you get no range that way, so it doesn't work for longer brush strokes. You'll automatically get chicken scratch lines, and that's objectively not aesthetic. If you prefer that though, then fine, but just know that you have poor taste. For longer strokes, you'll want to remove any weight you had on the hand and use the entire arm in the motion. It's physics. You always get a more stable result when you involve multiple joints in the motion. The hand should be able to glide over the drawing surface that way and allow for much cleaner, confident lines. It definitely helps to have a smudge guard as well. Now, the main pushback on this is usually that it's too physically hard to do, but it really isn't if you do it right. You really only need to lift the weight off your hand and engage your shoulder during the action of drawing the line. All the time you're not doing that, which is like 80–90% of the time, you're resting. So no excuse. And then the last bit of technical skill to cover simply has to do with dexterity. You gotta put in the reps to get better. All the theory in the world won't help you unless you develop your dexterity, just like you did when you first learned to write as a kid. I got you though. I put together a list of the best exercises to improve your line dexterity, the same exercise that I've practiced myself for years and still do whenever I'm doodling. I actually have a full class going over that, so give it a watch later. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Now we're ready to move on to line weight, which is really going to bring your drawings to life. And there are a couple of things to keep in mind here. I'm sure most of you already know a thing or 2 about it, but I want to go over everything, so hopefully you'll be able to pick up a few things you weren't doing yet. Simply put, this drawing has no weight to its lines, and I made sure to use nice clean brush strokes, so the technical side, really isn't an issue here. Doesn't look hot. And this is a drawing with weighted lines. You can see first of all how much better the drawing reads, and I would argue this is what line weight is all about. But it also just looks much better. The variety in the line thickness, the contrast we get, even the suggestion of shadow. It's almost like comparing a book without paragraphs or punctuation to one that has it. The latter is much easier to read. So there are 5 guidelines that I want to go over when it comes to improving your line weight. Starting with the fact that how thick a line is should depend entirely on how important that line is. Not every line is as important, obviously, but representing them as such is key to good line weight. One thing that makes a line more or less important is whether it's a silhouette defining a line or not. Is it the contour line of something? This one isn't, so it shouldn't be particularly thick. This one here, though, defines this entire silhouette, so we can add a bit of thickness to make it stand out more. And that's essentially the effect a thicker line has. It attracts more attention. If something is a small detail, usually it'll work best to use a thinner line for it to make sure it doesn't stand out too much. And that's that. So let's move on to the next guideline that will make your line weight even better. And I just want to mention real quick that, of course, developing your fundamentals and getting better at drawing overall will always help make your drawings better, allow you to draw cooler things, draw more intricate details without struggling as much. But this stuff we're going over will make as much, if not more, of an impact when it comes to line art. Even if you suck at drawing, just keeping in mind these technical skills and applying the guidelines about line weights and seeing the result will blow your mind. If you want to seriously level up your overall drawing skills though, and prefer to not suck at drawing, you should really check out my art program with the link in the video description, or by visiting cgart.school. It's a college equivalent education expertly crafted to tackle from the comfort of your home. It comes with classes covering every relevant art topic, assignments, a week-by-week guide to hold your hand through the entire content, and a big private Discord community to hang with some of the 19,000 other students already enrolled in the art school program. It's on sale for the holidays. The price is going up next month. Now is your chance to get it as cheap as it will ever be. I don't want you to miss out on this. Check it out with the link in the video description. Now back on topic, the second line weight guideline that you should think about is line perspective. You know how everything appears to get smaller with distance? Well, so does line thickness. Lines that are meant to be closer to the viewer, like her hand here, should feature bolder/thicker lines, while the lines in the back there, in the back of the drawing, like her hair, well, that should feature thinner lines being further away. Remember this, lines get thinner with distance. Boom! Easy. Next guideline, volume suggestion. This is something you'll want to use when you want to illustrate a detail that's not quite important or significant enough to be featured as a line, but also kind of important enough not to be completely erased. I like to use volume suggestion when I draw fabrics a lot. You can see here the fold starts off strong and kind of requires a solid line, but as tension dissipates, as the fold becomes flatter and flatter, I'll use those broken diagonal lines to represent a weaker line as it gradually loses its importance. Also, quite often, I'll use very subtle hatching to represent an abrupt change in direction in the volume that I'm drawing. Like, instead of drawing a cube like this with hard edges, I would instead suggest the edges with hatching if I'm drawing a soft cube, like a melting ice cube maybe. Or of course, any other detail from a volume that's meant to have like a softer edge. You can kind of see it in the fingers here. Now, the next weight line guideline, and there are only two left, is to suggest the detail without drawing the detail. What the heck, bro? I've used this everywhere in her face here. A real mouth doesn't look like a line, of course, but we still understand it's a mouth. Often, more beginner artists will draw all the details like this, but you can draw the same thing with very few lines to keep the drawing light and without losing any of the information. Basically, we want to only keep the most prominent part of those facial features and kind of let the brain fill in the rest. And then finally, one more thing that will help level up your line art game is to introduce very subtle shadows by selectively thickening up some lines that might be located in areas where the light might have a hard time reaching. This is harder to do for sure. We're bringing in this notion of lighting into the mix while just working on line art, but this will take any drawing from a B- to an A+ right away. An easy way to apply this is to use just slightly thinner lines when a detail is pointing toward the top of your canvas, as if to simulate the light of the sun illuminating it, and then thickening the lines on the opposite side where the light might not be able to reach. And all of this should help you become a drawing god. And of course, we've blasted through these guidelines at the speed of light, but that's going to wrap it up for this week's class. I hope that was helpful. If it was, let your art buddies know. Let them know they should never skip a class. But please don't laugh at their drawings with bad line art just because yours is now way better after watching the class. Also, don't hesitate to tag me on social media if you follow this class and end up creating a cool drawing as a result, or any of my classes for that matter. I always love to see what you guys create, and even though I can't reply to everything, I do see all of it. And often I'll try to retweet or post in my Instagram stories the art that impresses me the most, sending some extra traffic your way. I also still read all the YouTube comments I get, so if you have any suggestions for future videos, or if this helped you and you want to let me know, comment away. And also, before the video ends, don't forget to check out my complete art education program.